Welcome to Athletes and Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, where we've created a platform to help athletes and other alumni network and connect with each other and tap into various resources in health and finance and career. But more importantly, this show is all about athlete transition out of sport. It's such a major issue today between health and financial literacy, and we want to make a positive impact. So we interview former college and professional athletes, and we talk about their transition out of sport and their journey into successful business leadership and entrepreneurship. So excited today to have Abbie Fish. How you doing, Abbie?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to have you as well. So Abbie was a swimmer at the University of Georgia. And then when she finished up there, she started working with USA Swim and a couple other places. But ultimately, she parlayed that athlete determination, the athlete skill set, and everything that goes into being an athlete into founding her own company, Swim Like a Fish. I'm really excited to hear more about that in a little bit. So, Abbie, talk about playing sports growing up. How did that shape you leading up into college?
Yeah, I was a multi-sport athlete for the majority of my life. A lot of people assume that I just swam like the entire time, which I did swim, but I played 6 sports through middle school. Like extracurricular activities were my jam after school. I was very competitive. I enjoyed team sports, swimming a little bit more soloed, but I also exceeded in that too, or excelled in that. And yeah, after I went to high school is when I really decided to get a bit more competitive with swimming. But I would say swimming kind of picked me. I don't know if it was the other way around. And so I just started going after it as best I could and really training and setting higher goals. And that was a really exciting time. And so I would equate swimming to a lot of the time management, dedication, communication, setting goals, like a lot of these great like lifestyle factors. But I also learned how to work with a team, how to listen to coaches, how to be coachable, through a plethora of other sports that I played too.
That's great. And I think the dedication, I think I've had a couple of swimmers as former guests as well. And I mean, don't you have to go to the pool like really early in the morning and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Luckily for me, because I didn't really become soloed swimming until the junior year of high school is when I gave up my last sport, which was volleyball, and I focused just strictly on swimming. I didn't start doing those doubles until my sophomore year. So I only did doubles for like 10 years, where I had teammates that I swam with who did doubles since they were like 12 and they swam until they were almost 30. So like 5 a.m. mornings for them were like more of their life than less of their life at age 30.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. That's got to be rough. I mean, I had a paper route, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, but you get the pretense though. You got to get up early. Sometimes it's cold. You got to do, and it's sometimes it's very monotonous. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
swimming up and down, walking. So I can understand some parallels there.
Yeah. I mean, I ran cross country and distance in high school and a little bit in college. So just a lot goes in that. I mean, we had, practice, never had to do too early in the morning, maybe on weekends, but it's definitely dedication. So did you have any aspirations of being a professional athlete or being an Olympian?
Yes, well, as I grew through my career, when I was younger, I just loved sports. I honestly did not think that that was something I was capable of until I started achieving more. And when I made my first Olympic trials cut, is where things really started kind of clicking with me. That I was like, if I really dial everything in, like the sky's the limit here. And so that was kind of cool because it was kind of natural that how it all progressed for me. Yeah, so I grew up moving all around, and my dad always had a new job every 2 to 3 years. So I swam on a bunch of different teams. I played a bunch of different sports, but it really wasn't until high school that I realized that I could potentially make an Olympic team, and it was in the specific sport of swimming. Because no one in my family were professional athletes. Like we all just did sports for fun. So it was never the goal was that outcome, but eventually it became a goal, which was really cool.
Oh, that's great. That was my thing is I'd always joke around about it. It's like I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Unfortunately, the talent wasn't there. So now I do podcasts and have companies. All right, well, let's fast forward to, at University of Georgia, when you were there, were there any type of like classes or workshops kind of specifically geared to preparing athletes for life after sports?
No. That was something that I think has been a little bit more established since I stopped swimming, but it is wild because they give you all these things to succeed while you're in it, whether that be, academic tutors, stipend money, scholarships. Like, I feel like I had everything and more, medical whenever I needed it. But yeah, the moment that my eligibility was up, it was it was a whole new world. It took me a while to kind of find my identity outside of the sport.
Yeah, no, and that's like you said. I think schools are more cognizant of it today, and I guess it depends. I mean, some of the bigger schools maybe, but it's something that we've even talked about at Alumni Direct of just kind of working with resource partners to go in and help schools to develop some additional curriculum to not only help the current athletes but the alumni athletes too. I mean, you play blood, sweat, and tears for in your sport for your school. It'd be nice to know that when your journey's over with sports, even if you're fortunate to make, let's say, professionally or Olympics or whatever it might be, but to be able to go back and then tap into those resources.
Yeah, my luckily the program I swam for has a huge alumni like network, and so we were always very close to people who swam before us and like very proud, which is fun. And so I know people in all different like facets and like niches of life, which is awesome. So if like I needed a lawyer, I could find a lawyer. If I need a doctor, and so I always thought that that was really cool, and that was actually something that was appealing to me when I was getting recruited. I was like, oh, I met this girl who won a national championship for Georgia swimming in 1999, and she still comes back for football games. And so there was a little bit of like a community built within Georgia swimming. But as far as like the identity side of things, yeah, it was harder.
Yeah, it's hopefully things will change and schools be more active. I mean, we'll talk about that in a moment about alumni engagement, but let's talk a little bit about networking and connecting and talk about the importance of doing that, especially while you're still playing your sport.
Yeah, luckily I was always the kid where my mom would take me to the grocery store. I would talk to everyone. Like as a very, very young child, she put me in the cart and I'd be like chatting with somebody in the vegetable aisle. I'd end up with a lollipop and my mom would be like, "Where'd you get that from?" And I'm like, "Oh, this guy." She's like, "Don't eat it." But so like chatting and being just open and saying hi is something that's come very natural to me. And so I feel like I've always networked without really realizing that that's what I was doing. But now, I mean, I work in the sport of swimming. I swam through the sport of swimming. I know a lot of people, and all of that has just benefited me in multiple facets of my life, whether it's business related, personal related. That yeah, it's the key to anything. Like if you want to get somewhere, you have to have great relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said too about being younger. And I mean, it sounds like you were definitely the extrovert for sure. But
Yes.
one thing I always encourage too, networking, connecting is, yeah, starting at a young age. I mean, think about all your, yeah, let's say even in high school, your teammates and their parents and coaches and people want to help. And it always gets in that conversation of just sometimes people might think like, well, how can I help this person that's older or whatever or successful? Well, maybe it's just the fact that maybe it's helping their kids or things like that.
Yeah, and swimming is it's very small. It's a little bubble, but I feel like once you're in it, people do take care of each other. And so like I've been coached by a guy who was coached by a different guy, like, and there's just this chain of events. And so it's been really fun to start to work within a community. I've been in Louisville, Kentucky for 5, 6 years now that I've worked with athletes in a consistent place over time. And it's been fun to get to know them, get to know their siblings, get to know their parents. And so you just become very connected to these people, whether they stay swimmers for life or they just swim through high school, like whatever they end up being, you have that relationship with them that doesn't end.
Yeah, no, I had some good friends of ours. Their kids were swimmers, and I saw that tight knit community that you're talking about, which is great. What do you like? This is something I continue to bring up on more of my current podcast, but the kind of like the networking amongst different sports, and I think it's like a lot of times you'll see it seems like the football players hang with the football and basketball with basketball, maybe baseball with baseball. Now it might be a little bit different with swimming and like me being a runner, like maybe some of those other sports. But was there a lot of networking between the different sports in college?
I would say yes and no. I feel like because we all had academic tutoring at my school together, a lot of the Olympic sports would get to know other Olympic sports. There were some footballers that were in there and baseball players that you kind of would cross paths with everybody. And so, like the swim team at the time, I was at Georgia. a brother whose sister was on the women's volleyball team. So like we would go to volleyball games to show support. So there was like intermingling for sure, just through the athletic department. But I guess it wasn't something that was promoted. It just kind of naturally happened.
Right. And I think it's important because it's just, I always talk about all of us athletes playing sports growing up, regardless of sport. It's the team, it's the practice, it's preparation. Most people started at a young age and they go all the way through. And like you said, play multiple sports. And there's that affinity relationship. And I think it's kind of cool when you see, I always bring up how I do a monthly networking event with my podcast guest. And it's just kind of cool to see the football player with the swimmer, with the wrestler, with the MMA fighter, soccer player, whatever it might be, but like just across all sports, but just having that common goal and saying, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and how can we help each other as like fellow athletes and kind of having that same mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's once you've been in sport, and especially if you worked in sport in a high level, it's very easy to have a conversation with anybody. We can all discuss the grind and have some common factors there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Everybody's got that good story about whether it be the coach, the teammate, or whatever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about alumni engagement, and something that's obviously important to us here at Alumni Direct. And you mentioned, just again back to the swim community, you started kind of alluding to that, but was there a push to bring back athletes, and not just for like the homecoming events or the big games, but more so just to interact with the fellow athletes and kind of mentor them and things like that?
Yeah, there was a lot of pride in the program, as I said, at my school. They had won 3 or 4 different national championships prior to me joining the team. So a lot of people who swam prior were still like cheering on and hoping that we would continue kind of like this trend that we had. And more specifically, I don't remember the number of meets, but we were the longest standing women's swim team to win consecutive dual meets. And I think we were at like 20 something years where we hadn't lost a home dual meet. And so there was like, there was a lot of like, people would text you from 2002 and I didn't show up until 2008. And then I was there through 2014 that like, they would be like, you got to get after it this Tuesday, which is wild because they do talk about the transition with swimming into college is more so swimming for a team, which there is like a big shift there from like being solo on a club to then like having a program that's you're representing. But yeah, there was just a lot more investment from alumni to live up to like what they had done and continue the trend. And I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, is there kind of like today any kind of push to bring back athletes like yourself, and not maybe not just specifically in what sport you were in, but just more as a athlete from the University of Georgia per se?
Yeah, I would say that I've gone back multiple times, and each time I go back, coaches or like an academic advisor is like, "Hey, can you come talk to these so and so?" Or like, "Can you tell them a little bit about your story?" And it could be something that's actually like structured, like I went back to present this, or like I went to the pool deck to check on practice. So I'm the alumni now that's old walking into the younger athletes, which you're always like, who's that person? But then you say, hey, this is what I did and this is why I love it here and I hope you have a great experience. So I think it's come through both ways, organized and unorganized.
Yeah, no, it's important. I mean, we've talked about doing networking events where talking to some of these athletic departments where they kind of each month highlight an alumni athlete and kind of talk to them like you and I are talking now, and find out about when they were at school and their journey and kind of what they're doing today, and then open it up to alumni. But I mean, to other alumni that are there, or even maybe current athletes, but just making something to re-engage the alumni athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people on my team naturally would do that, but I also think at the same time they would enjoy if there was something structured. I know people would show up.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the fun couple question I always get to ask. So I don't know if you got to watch or listen to any of the episodes ahead of time. So if not, then there'll be a surprise. They're not trick questions, but if you can go back in time, kind of like the DeLorean and Back to the Future, what advice, 10 words or less, would you give to freshman Abbie at Georgia?
Your expectation about college swimming is not going to be what you think.
All right. That's always, it's funny because when people talk about okay, so let's see, 10 words, like they're counting them out. But That definitely, that's a good one. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, my career didn't end up in the direction that I presumed it was going to go. And talking about identity shifts, and I got ill, I had sicknesses. Like, I really had a series of unfortunate events through college, which was really tough because mental health at the time was not really talked about. We didn't have like psychologists to help us. That I struggled through college swimming. I went in like bright eyed, bushy tailed, like just everything. And by the time I personally finished swimming, there was like a completely different person on the other side. So my full circle moment didn't happen for me in the water. It's actually happened for me outside of the water. Coaching and starting my own business has really kind of like healed my own career in a sense.
And we're definitely come back and touch on that when we talk about your transition out and just advice to others. So now let's fast forward to senior Abbie. Any advice to her? 10 words or less.
Be patient.
Okay, yeah, that's good. One that's come up a lot lately too is be present and enjoy the moment, because it seems like a lot of us, and I mean, I think we're all guilty of it. I know I'm guilty of it. Just enjoying the time while you're there. And for me, it wasn't as much because I got hurt my sophomore year, so I pretty much got to live out the junior and senior year with like didn't have to worry about the practices and all that. A lot of these athletes, they're working so hard, they just don't truly get to enjoy that college experience.
Yeah. I do feel like I was very focused through college, that I didn't have your like quote unquote traditional college experience, but the college experience I did have had a lot of its own benefits, which was great too. So I don't know. I don't see it as this or that. I just see it as the one I had.
Yeah. How's in the sport of swimming now, and especially since you're around to coaching all that too? Um, how has the world of NIL impacted swimmers? I mean, you hear all the stuff with football, basketball players in the portal and all that, but how do you see NIL from a swimming perspective?
Yeah, unless you're really, really good, NIL doesn't totally touch swimming monetarily. But for those athletes that it does touch, there's numbers that we never saw, like while I was swimming. And so I think with that, it's kind of going into the representing your school and having a lot of pride in the school that you are with. I think the NIL has affected that through all sports. As I've talked about before, swimming at Georgia was a big deal. It's still a big part of my identity. It's something I'll always be proud of. But I do think that there's less of that now. There's less of like, I'm really bought in and I dedicated myself here and I'm going to finish. It's like you kind of, what's the right word? The integrity of your word, I feel like is not as prominent anymore.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of positives to it. And negatives as well. I mean, the thing I always talk about too, I think one of the biggest things is just education. Is just needing for people to understand more about, this is a business now, and start an LLC, and you're an entrepreneur, you got to pay taxes. I mean, a lot of these, especially like the ones that do make a lot of money, but even then, it's nice to see now more of the other sports, like the Olympic sports and all that, having opportunities in NIL, whether it's individually or as a team.
Yeah, it's something that I don't know, I can't quite comprehend because it wasn't my experience, but at the same time, I swam with some amazing athletes that, I mean, the amount of monetary and just collaborations and stuff they could have created could have set them up for a completely different life than what they have now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, all right, well, let's talk about your transition as sport. And you kind of alluded to just some of the challenges. Talk about your experience from you basically swimming your whole life, and I mean now you're still involved now with coaching, but now you're done with school and you're on the other side of it as far as competing. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, the transition for me was really hard. I went in and medically retired one afternoon after I had swam morning practice. So in some ways it came as a surprise, but at the same time, how we ended there wasn't a surprise. And so, yeah, I remember just kind of walking back to my dorm and being like, I don't have to go to practice. Like, what am I like? I had no idea what to do. So I went to some friends on the team's couch and I just slept on the couch like while they were at practice. And that was the start of a kind of like the words I said of being patient, of being very lost for a while. Like I did not know what to do with myself and all this extra time that I had. And I was so used to training that like the person in me wanted to train, but at the same time was super burned out. And so I didn't know how to balance like how to go to the gym, but not feel like I needed to go to the gym and like aggressively like train myself for no purpose. So yeah, it took me a while to find that. I had to try on a bunch of different hats. I got my coaching cert. I was a spin instructor. I became a personal trainer. I did swim lessons. Like I was kind of all over the place until I finally started realizing that like, yeah, I can do some stuff outside of the pool, but naturally my love of swimming started coming back when I was going to the pool. And that's how I started falling in love with coaching and moving from there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's great to found. I mean, I think a lot of the biggest thing, like you mentioned, is identity. I think a lot of people just, you're Abbie the swimmer, I'm Rob the runner, just, Billy the football player, and just identifying yourself as the sport and not the person that has still many years ahead of you to go into the whatever career you might go into.
Yeah. And all my life, all my biggest relationships at that point were my coaches and my teammates. And so it's not like I didn't have very many friends outside of swimming too. And so I remember thinking like, oh, I should just like be a normal college student. And then I was like, what does that mean? Like, I just had no idea like what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, no, it's certainly hard. So, what advice would you give to athletes as they come to the end of their journey, whether it's as a college athlete or professional athlete?
Yeah, I realized all the things I didn't do when I stopped swimming that I should have done like while I was swimming. And so our university had classes and things that we could go to for like you could go have a mock job interview. You could go get a resume like looked at. There was a class on money. And when we were athletes, we are like, we don't need to do that. Like, we're fine. Like, we're good. And there's like this kind of an attitude to who we were and like the whatever reputation that we had that I was really glad I went to grad school right after undergrad. And I signed up for everything. I had so many mock job interviews. Like I figured out how to like dress myself for appropriate things. Like I think I really grew up afterwards, but I wish I would have seen all those things as benefits when I was younger. And so I could have been more ahead of the game.
Yeah, no, I think it's you definitely get a lot of insight after you're done and look into what you can do. And I think it's important for athletes to know too that support systems are out there. I know we talked a little bit offline last time about just some of these Olympic athletes and some of the challenges. I mean, it's any athlete, but that they face. I mean, you spend your whole life, and it might just be for a 2-minute race or a 4-minute race, and then all of a sudden it's over. And then like, what do you do? Like you train for, and then it's done. So to definitely see some challenges there. I see you got done and then you started you said you did Team USA, working there and doing some different things. I mean, how did all that work and some of the things you were doing there?
Yeah, so when I worked at USA Swimming, I got an internship. It was right after grad school, so it was like I went undergrad straight into grad school straight into my first internship. And that was really cool because the internship was swimming adjacent. It wasn't coaching. It was more of this like technical video analysis of swimmers. So you kind of coached, but you were like, I don't know, like a tertiary coach to a lot of athletes. And I absolutely loved that. I thought it was like the coolest job in the world. But the person who was doing that had been there for like 20 years through the Michael Phelps era, and he had planned to like retire there. And so I was like, well, that's
Not much
cool,
of that.
but there's no job. So how am I supposed to do this? And so I had a very vague goal of like, I'd love to do that for athletes, but how do I like build the skill set and how do I even offer this? And so I took 2 more jobs after that had like a little bit of this video component, but they were more traditional coaching roles before I started my own thing. And actually, like on our website, we offer video analysis packages, which are featuring underwater and above water film for swimmers that I could have that available and someone could purchase it and then we could work together. So it's super cool. It's like a big dream. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I have no idea I was going to own a business. And then like fast forward to 2019 when I started Swim Like a Fish. We're here now.
No, that's great. And how do you think being an athlete helped you in this journey of becoming an entrepreneur and having your own business?
Yeah, I think the odds are against you when you're training for the Olympic team, especially in America. Like we have so many great athletes in swimming that like the depth charts are nuts and they only take the top 2 on one specific day every 4 years that you're kind of going after something that's not impossible because people do it, but it's not very probable. And so you're headstrong. Like you're like, no, well, I'm going to do it anyways. And that is definitely like what has transferred into my own business is was like, I can be a little bit like stubborn in the sense of like, I will fail. I know I will fail, but I'm going to try. And that's kind of the mindset plus the training that has led me to try a lot of things that haven't worked and tried a lot of things that have. And I just keep moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's what I do. Talk a little bit about, what you're doing with Swim Like a Fish.
Yeah, so Swim Like a Fish has evolved through the years. The very first product was video analysis that I started offering to the world. But we've built out coaching courses for coaches on stroke technique. We have training plans. We actually virtually coach swimmers, which I think is one of the coolest things ever. That I've ended up being able to work with people all over the world. And we have like 500,000 followers now from all different countries. And it's been really really special to be considered a continuing education resource for swimmers and coaches that is like under my own umbrella. So I'm like this little subset over here where people can kind of come and take what they need. And yeah, that's how we function. So it's been.
And then what are like, I guess, what are the age groups that you work with?
Yeah, I mainly work with competitive swimmers. A lot of times their ages like 10 to 17 ish. 10 is pretty young. So I would say probably medium range is like 11, 12. From a body perspective, you can really create a lot of great movement patterns that will stay ingrained before the age of 12. And then after you get above 12, it gets harder to make some of these small tweaks and changes because you've had so many reps doing the same thing through practice at that time that I try to take an athlete, put them on a good path, and then continue to work with them as they grow to keep them on that path as their body starts to evolve too. So it's a puzzle that I really enjoy, and also has given me, like, I just went to Africa last fall and I was able to work with a bunch of African coaches and swimmers and help them kind of build out their 14 to 16 age range pipeline. And it's a lot of teaching from my perspective, but I enjoy teaching people new things. And then it fosters a great relationship too.
Yeah, that's great. And then are you working with both female and male athletes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm contracted through USA Swimming, so I do stuff through my own umbrella, Swim Like a Fish, and then I also work through USA Swimming. And then the Africa one was World Aquatics, which is actually like the mothership of all the NGBs. So it's been really fun to like have an opportunity where I started on my own. I was like, hey, if you want to work with me, you can. And I think a lot of people were like, who are you? And now as I've been working through bigger entities and have much bigger opportunities, a lot of people do fortunately know who I am, that I get contacted from. I had a call from the Philippines last week, and I thought that was super cool. A breaststroker, and he was a boy breaststroker that was wanting to get better. And we just chatted through some things, and he's got some stuff to work on. We'll see how it goes for him.
So, and now do you approach both from a physical and a mental
I do think a lot of that comes from my own career and like how my career ended up, that I tap into the emotions more and like build a bit more empathetic through people that are going through a plateau, or maybe they've hit a stalemate where they're just like, I feel like I should be getting better, but I'm not, and I'm putting in the effort. That, yeah, I think it's really important to, at first, I'll be honest, I talked a lot more than I asked questions. And now I ask a lot more questions than I spend time talking, just to make sure I'm on the same page with these athletes.
Yeah, I think that comes with both, I'd say, maturity as well as just having that understanding, be a good listener and see what's going on with these athletes. And then you do stuff both, you do stuff in person too. So like you'll go out to, like, if somebody reaches out to you from wherever or another country, that.
Yeah, I've been able to travel a lot. The map behind me is actually a map of the world, and there's little dots on there. It's kind of blurry, so you can't really see it. Of all the places that I've gone for work, all the places that I've lived, and I just keep track of. I'm trying to do something in every single state in the United States, and I'm already into the 30s, so I'm getting really close. And I had 2 this year that reached out that I haven't done yet, but they're going to knock off part on that list.
That's awesome.
I love to be able to see the world and do some stuff with swimming. It's a really cool combination.
Yeah, that's great. I do that with try to do that with baseball road trips with my son, like hitting all the different stadiums. But yeah, that's cool. The different states. I was talking to a guy. He was actually on the podcast, who's a basketball coach, and he's a pretty renowned like public speaker now.
Yeah,
and he's got the same thing going. I think he's up to like 48 states. I think there's just like he's just almost there. He's got 2 left, and then he'll be done. So that's kind of cool that you do that. So how do people find you?
I've got a website, swimlikeafish.org is the short version, and then we are all over social media. So I've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all the things that I'm sure we can put into the comments for you all to click on and click through if you're interested in learning more about the technique of swimming.
That's awesome. And you can find us at alumnidirect.com. The podcast is on our YouTube channel, as well as across all the different podcast networks. And each week I always talk about the nuggets, as I call them, of just the advice and just the stories that athletes share. And I think it's great. We really want to make an impact and help a lot of athletes and encourage people to watch and listen to these episodes. And just, there is life after sports, and there's a lot of people that can show that, and people that care and want to help.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was a true pleasure.